we live in is affected all the time by the weather and our environment. Have you ever wondered why the sun is hot? What causes tornadoes and hurricanes? Do you know what's inside a volcano and why clouds float? We're going to explore the answer to all these burning questions plus many more on Why, What, Where. Why do we recycle? Have you ever wondered what happens to all the rubbish that you throw away each day? Did you know that each household produces about a large truck's worth of rubbish every year? Every year in the United Kingdom, households throw over 29.1 million tonnes of waste. That's the same weight as 4.85 million male African elephants. Recycling means taking materials from products once you've finished with them and making brand new products with them. For example, in America, most of the aluminium cans are made with recycled aluminium. When you finish a can of soda, instead of throwing it in the rubbish bin with all the other trash, you can put it in a special box or specially marked bin, which means it will be recycled and used again. But why do you think we should recycle? This answer is easy, because making new things from recycled ones takes less money, less energy, and less of the Earth's resources. Because less energy is used, factories don't release as much pollution either. Everyone can recycle. You can recycle at home and school, and your parents can recycle at work, and so can the companies they work for. All you need to do is separate the materials you're going to recycle from the rest of the trash. The recyclable materials will be collected by a different truck and then processed and sold to manufacturers for use in new products. What materials can I recycle? Aluminium and steel, cans, cardboard, glass, newspapers, and plastic bottles. Why is sunshine hot? What do you like to do on a hot day? Go to the beach? Eat an ice cream? When the sun is shining, it's always fun to be outside. But do you know why sunshine is hot? Scientists actually call sunshine a different name. They call it radiation. There are different kinds of radiation, such as light and heat. Light and heat come from the sun at the same time. We see the light and feel the heat, and that's why we say sunshine is hot. Another kind of radiation from the sun is invisible ultraviolet light. It gives us a suntan, and that's why we can't look at the sun during an eclipse. We need to be careful not to stand in the sun for too long because it can burn our skin. Wearing sunscreen helps, and a t-shirt and hat. Could the sun ever get cold? Possibly, but it would take billions of years from now. How does solar power work? The sun is amazing. Without it, none of us would be here, and there would be no life on Earth. It's bigger than anything we can really imagine, and it takes millions of years for the energy from the centre of the sun to reach the sun's surface, and then just 8 minutes for it to travel the 93 million miles to Earth. The sun gives off more energy in 1 second than people have used since the beginning of time. But that's not all. Plants make food out of sunlight, and then animals eat plants, and then we eat animals, unless of course we're vegetarian and just eat plants. Without the sun, plants would not be able to make food. They wouldn't be able to produce oxygen, and no animals or humans would be able to breathe. The sun produces nearly all the heat on the Earth too. Without it, our planet would be freezing cold. So when we talk about solar energy, we're referring to energy, light or heat that comes from the sun. There are lots of different ways we use solar energy without even thinking about it. What gets you hot lying on the beach on a summer day? Solar energy. What makes plants grow? Rain and solar energy. And on and on. Solar energy has existed for 5 billion years, since the sun was born. And humans have been using solar energy for thousands of years. But when was the first solar panel invented? In the year 1954, a group of American scientists placed several strips of silicon together, which is like plastic, to capture light energy from the sun. When the sun stops shining on your solar panel, its electricity stops flowing. So what do you do if you want to be able to read or watch television at night? What stores the electricity in a flashlight? That's right, a battery. And that's exactly what people do with solar panels. They attach batteries. The batteries are big, heavy, rectangular boxes, sort of like car batteries. Electricity from a solar panel flows into attached batteries while the sun shines, and then the stored electricity in the batteries can be used at night or when the sun is behind the clouds. Little solar panels are used on solar calculators. The panel is usually in a little strip across the top. You might have seen solar panels on people's roofs or on poles in front of their houses. Can you think of other places you've seen a solar panel? Or perhaps you have a bright idea of where to put one. Where can you find icebergs? On a hot day, you might put an ice cube in your glass of soda to keep it cool. Well, an iceberg is a very large piece of ice that floats in the sea. Berg is a German word that means mountain. Icebergs are found in the coldest parts of the Earth. Around the North and South Poles, the land and sea are both covered by sheets of ice, which are over 300 metres deep in the middle. Have you heard of a glacier? The difference between a glacier and an iceberg is that a glacier is found on land and an iceberg, which is usually broken off a glacier, is floating on the sea. In the Arctic Ocean in Alaska, icebergs float in these areas of open waters. These waters were once completely frozen. Sadly, global warming, which we're going to talk about later, is causing the ice to thaw out. Recently, scientists have been studying the effects of global warming and have found hundreds of creatures living under the ice, many of which have never been seen before. Look at these bizarre jellyfish and other odd creatures, which are not normally found in such cold waters. Scientists have nicknamed this one Dumbo, named after the famous Disney elephant because it has large flapping wings on the side of its head. Did you know that icebergs can melt in less than a week as they enter warmer waters? What is global warming? Global warming is in all the news today. It might seem like a really big problem, but there's loads you can do to help fix it. Global warming is a term that's used to describe the Earth warming up, which causes changes in the climate. A warmer Earth means that rainfall patterns can change, sea levels can rise, and plants, wildlife and human habitats can be affected. All this means big changes for our planet. When scientists talk about issues of climate change, they're concerned about human activities contributing to global warming, such as using too much electricity, pollution, and wasting our energy resources. This exhibition shows how our weather patterns and climate zones are all part of a fragile system and what you can do to help.
Stop using cars too much, like walk to work, and stuff like that. Ride their bikes and stuff instead of driving cars too much and using transport.
What can I do to make a difference to global warming? Turn off lights, the TV and the computer when you're finished with them. Plant trees and don't forget to recycle. Coming up, what is a volcano? And why do clouds float? What is a volcano? You may have heard of volcanoes or even seen one on television. Usually when people think of volcanoes, the first image that comes to mind is probably a tall, cone-shaped mountain with orange lava spewing out the top. Volcanoes are actually mountains that open downwards to a pool of molten rock, which is below the surface of the Earth. When pressure builds up, eruptions occur. The eruptions can cause big blasts. The boiling lava can flow over the top of the mountain, and they can also cause avalanches and floods. Volcano eruptions have been known to knock down entire forests, trigger earthquakes, tsunamis, and rockfalls. Pretty powerful, huh? Most of the volcanoes in the world are found in 2 areas, but there are more than 500 active volcanoes in the world. Volcano mountains are topped with vents, holes and craters. When the volcano erupts, lava, ash, cinders, dust and hot gas can pour out of the top. When the lava cools down, it turns into hard rock. The earth near a volcano is dark in colour and looks like grey powder. This is ash from the volcano. You can actually visit volcanoes which are not active in certain parts of the world. You still have to be careful though, because at any moment they could erupt. Did you know that the bottom of the ocean and some mountains were formed by lots of volcanic eruptions? What is a tornado? Tornadoes are one of the most extreme weather conditions to occur on our planet. A tornado, also known as a twister, is a very fast and vicious force of air that forms out of thunderstorms. It spins around and around, twisting the air and moving forward really fast, causing loads of destruction along the way. Tornadoes have been known to destroy large buildings, rip out trees by their roots and send them flying through the streets. Thankfully, tornadoes don't happen every time we have a thunderstorm, and some places don't get affected at all. In America, more tornadoes occur than anywhere else in the world, often during the springtime. You might find it hard to believe, but over the course of a whole year, 1,000 tornadoes are reported in America. But how do you think a tornado develops? Well, when warm, moist air meets with cool, dry air, it starts to change the Earth's atmosphere. So a change in the wind direction and an increase in its speed creates a spinning effect that shifts from being flat to rising into the air in the form of a tube. It's because of this rotation that strong and violent tornadoes form. There's been loads of research done into tornadoes to learn more, because no one fully understands how they grow and eventually die. There is never a lot of damage caused by tornadoes. True or false? False. Tornadoes can cause lots of damage. What is a hurricane? A hurricane is a huge storm. It can stretch very wide and has strong winds that spiral inward and upward at rapid rates, just like a tornado. But there are differences. Tornadoes produce stronger winds and normally don't last as long. Hurricanes, on the other hand, can last for over a week. They can cause storm surges when the water of the ocean rises much higher than usual. A storm surge is very dangerous and can sweep away homes that are built right along the beach. Hurricanes rotate in a counterclockwise direction around an eye or centre of the storm. They move over the ocean and gather heat and energy through contact with warm ocean waters. Scientists hope to find out how these violent weather systems happen and how they travel across the ocean and land. When scientists gather more data about hurricanes, they can help improve weather forecasting and predict when hurricanes will occur. Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans in America is a recent example of the devastation hurricanes can cause, and so a better understanding of this dangerous weather behaviour will help save lives. Did you know that up until 1979, only women's names were used to name hurricanes? Now they're named after both men and women. Why do clouds float? Clouds are amazing. Those white fluffy things that live in the sky and make all sorts of shapes and patterns as they travel along all day and night. But why do they float? And what are they made of? Well, firstly, clouds are made up of liquid water droplets. A cloud forms when the sun heats air. As it rises, it slowly cools, and when it's wet through, the water reduces, forming a cloud. So as long as the cloud and the air that it's made of are warmer than the outside air around it, it will float. Did you know that all air contains water? But when we go outside, we don't get wet, right? That's because when you're on the ground, water is usually in the form of an invisible gas called water vapour. When warm air rises, it expands and cools. Cool air can't hold as much water vapour as warm air, so some of the vapour reduces into tiny pieces of dust that float in the air and form tiny droplets around each dust particle. When billions of these droplets come together, they become a visible cloud. Clouds move with the wind and can sometimes travel very fast, especially when they become part of a thunderstorm. Lie down outside on the grass and look up at the sky. What shapes and patterns can you make out of the clouds? Is it an animal, a house, a tree? See how many shapes you can find. Coming up, we find out why flowers have different colours and smells and why trees are so important. Why do flowers have different colours and smells? What's your favourite flower? A rose, lily or tulip? Flowers come in so many amazing varieties and have so many different and amazing shapes and smells. A flower's scent comes from special oils that are produced in the petals as the plant grows. When this oil evaporates, which it does very easily, it gives off a fragrance which we can smell. Various combinations of chemicals in the oils of different flowers give the flower its own unique fragrance. Some are pleasant, sweet smells, like those of roses, lilacs and lilies, while others are quite unpleasant. The pelican flower of South America, for example, smells like rotten meat. Flowers get their red, purple, orange, pink or yellow colours from the pigments or colouring matter, which lives in the sap of their cells. It's both the scents and colours that attract insects and birds, which land on the flower to sip its nectar. In doing so, they help spread the pollen, which will create new flowers. In order to attract more insects, many flowers have the same oil in their leaves, roots and fruit as they do in their petals, so they smell good all over. Do you know how you study plants? Botanists, who are people who study plants, which scientists refer to as flora, examine everything from dissecting seeds to growing forests. Plants are everywhere we are, so why not give them a closer look? Why are trees so important? Trees are valuable and even necessary to our very existence. It's not too hard to believe that without trees, we would not exist on this beautiful planet. Trees are essential to life, and our existing forest and the trees we plant work alongside each other to make a better world. So just why are they so vital to our survival? Trees produce oxygen. What many people don't realise is that the forest also acts as a giant filter that cleans the air we breathe. Trees clean the soil. Trees remove the poison from the soil through their roots. Trees help get rid of all the yucky, unwanted waste that we produce. Trees shade and cool. Trees provide relief from the sun on a hot day and heavy rain during a storm. In England, they have a whole week dedicated to celebrating trees. A campaign has been launched to plant 250,000 trees across the country to help replenish and reinvigorate woods and forests. What is a weed? Next time, when you're outside, have a look in your garden and see if you can spot a weed. A weed looks like a plant, but don't be fooled. Weeds grow in places where they're not wanted and can be very strong and healthy, which means they can outgrow other plants. They take up the soil nutrients and moisture that real plants need to stay strong. This is Mecania, or mile-a-minute weed. It looks pretty harmless, but in the state of Assam and other tea-growing areas of India, it's creating havoc, destroying up to 1/3 of farmers' tea. Plant scientists are working on natural alternatives to help get rid of this pesky weed. The environment we live in shapes our lives. Weather patterns can turn our lives upside down in an instant. We need to look after our world so that the plants, trees, flowers and oceans we depend on for our survival continue to thrive.